job than the job itself.
Yeah.
I never understood that. I'm like, you get your foot in the door and the first thing you want to do is like act like an asshole. Like, they're not gonna let you stay. So yeah, I think holding on to the humility, man, and kind of maybe not partying as hard or just not buying it. Don't believe the hype. Don't buy into the lifestyle, especially out there, because it is. It's look, it's really nice when people are like, hey, don't worry about it. We'll do it for you, just because you're so special because you can make pretend for a living. It's very easy to get lost in that and go, I am special, and you always got to remember. You're not. And then marry a woman that doesn't like your work. That's what I did. Never think very highly of yourself. It's the first movie I've made that she actually kind of liked. And in many ways, like Dan Connor is America's dad. And then aside from that role, of course, everything he's done with the Coen brothers, everything John Goodman has ever done, I've really been a fan of. I like John Goodman quite a bit. Aside from just the actor that he is, he's one of the few people that's kind of like me, larger in size and out there doing it in a business that's pretty much about people that don't look like us normally. So I don't know, I've always kind of dug it. When he signed on, I was like, oh, because it fulfilled my, at least part of the dream or the vision I had for the movie. Like, I've made a Kevin Smith movie every time I've made a flick, right? Like, I could leave this planet, go away for 20 years like in that terrible Superman movie, come back, and I still know how to make a Kevin Smith movie. I can't not, it's in my DNA, it's the only thing I can do. But, I know I'm wrapping up soon, the directing thing. And so I figured before I leave, I wanted to try to make a movie that wasn't a Kevin Smith movie, or at least by any traditional sense of the definition. Fire away.
I'm just wondering if your producing Small Town Gay Bar was kind of a catapult for jumping into this.
If it wasn't for Malcolm's movie, I never would have thought, I'd thought of them before, but I never would have thought about making a flick about them. It was my friend Malcolm Ingram made this film called Small Town Gay Bar. One of the bars was in Meridian, Mississippi. And apparently Meridian is the birthplace of Fred Phelps. So at one point Malcolm talked to Phelps. And, Phelps is a sensationalist. You've seen him on TV, you've heard him on Howard Stern or any number of places. But knowing that my friend, somebody I knew, had been in that close proximity with him, I was like, you fucking interviewed that guy? He's like, yeah. I was like, oh man, how much is there? He said, an hour. And I said, send me the DVD. I want to watch it, the uncut footage. And he sent it to me, and it was a really scary watch. I don't know if it was because, and these were in the days before I was getting stoned too. So I don't know if it was because, like, I was alone in the house upstairs watching, because I couldn't watch it downstairs, so my wife would have been like, turn this asshole off. So I wanted to watch it where I'd be unbothered and I could just focus on this fucking dude. It was an hour and change. It was so scary, terrifying, chilling maybe is the proper word, because he looks like your grandfather or favorite uncle. And, he does have kind of the down home, what would you call it, folksy delivery. He sounds friendly, almost George Bushian. And then what comes out of his mouth is bile, man. It's fucking hate. And he maintains it ain't hate. He maintains, like every fucking backwards religious person, oh, I'm the only person treating them with love because I'm the one telling them that they'll go to hell. It's ridiculous. So I'm watching that, and I was like, this is scary. Like, this is more frightening than anything in a horror movie, is that somebody like this can go out and say this shit, and we've all become so inured to it that he's just able to do that. My friend, he'll give an interview to anybody. He's even talking to my fucking friend, Malcolm, who's like the most illegitimate motherfucker in the business. So it's like, clearly this dude has been around long enough where his message is just so fucking like banging you over the head. We've all kind of powered down to it, which is scary and sad. The moment you stop reacting, it's a tricky thing with the Phelps. You can't react because that's what they want. But if you stop reacting, then you're just kind of allowing it to happen, so to speak. And you're kind of permitting tacitly hate speech, I think. So I sat there going like, what does one do, man? These cats are making an awesome horror movie film. Like, that's what you do. If you're gonna satirize, you can't, as I said, you can't like take their rights away. They gotta be able to say what they want, as shitty as it is. But you don't have to sit there and take it. And I was just like, satire, that's the only weapon I have. So let me go with a little satire. And at that point I started thinking about, okay, if you were the Phelpses and you ran out of funerals, then there goes the whole fucking campaign. So I was like, wow, wouldn't it be weird if like a extremely religious fundamentalist family like the Phelpses ran out of bodies and started making their own so they can then have funerals to protest at. And that was kind of the beginning of Red State. And I'd asked Malcolm at one point, I was like, you should do this as a horror movie, dude. He's like, I don't want it. I said, all right, let me try it. And it definitely came from there. It came from watching that footage, listening to him speak. I mean, there are a lot of gay people in my world, and I've always maintained I'm like one cock in the mouth shy of being gay myself. But the fact that there's I'm not like, somebody should stand up for, but it's just like, you can't just let that shit go unchecked. But again, you're limited as to what you can do. What are you going to do? You can't punch Fred Phelps in the face, just for having a fucking opinion that is ludicrous, but it's outside of the norm or the mainstream. You can't take away their ability to say what they say, because then that affects our ability to say what we say. So at the end of the day, you're like, let's just satirize him. Let's just make that monster look like a fucking kid. And to me, the last scene is the most devastating of all, because it just says that, like, it doesn't matter, he's crazy, in a room by himself. And that to me was, I don't know, I did it for my brother, who's gay, married to a dude for like 17 years now. I did it for Malcolm, I did it for everybody, not just for fucking gay people, for the fucking goddamn soldiers, for everybody these people have just irritated. For everybody these people have taken, like, the good name of Jesus Christ and fucking inverted it and turned it into something ugly that now people associate with fucking hatred and hate speech. So it came from definitely, the moment that crystallized it was watching that uncut footage of Malcolm's doc. And I'm glad. It's made for an interesting few months, because now I've kind of like gotten up close and personal to see like what they look like, and it's just, they're normal. That's the thing that kills you, man. They're just normal. Like, there's nothing all that extraordinary about them. They're just kind of normal and twisted, and they believe it. They fucking believe it. That's the thing that broke my heart when I was talking to the two escapees. They were like, no, it's no joke, dude. They actually believe it. I was like, come on, please tell me it's a scam. They're like, oh, 100% those fuckers believe that. Now, it seems like it's Fred, and it seems like it's the generation right under his kids. It seems like the grandkids, they're doing it because they're raised in it.
They're still young.
But they're still young, and you're seeing some breaking away and stuff. So, there's a chance that the old man will die, and fucking that campaign will die out with him as well. You gotta hope. But then there is another second generation of assholes there. Like this one dude who joined them, was not even a family member. Came and fucking joined him, and he's the dude, Steve, they were saying, he's the dude that wants to like take over. They're like, if Gramps dies, I think Steve's gonna take over. And you're like, he's not even a member of the fucking family. So I don't know. I mean, it's like I said, you can't do anything about him, but at the same time, you can. Hit him with your art. And I don't know. It's opened all sorts of weird other doors too, like conversations with them on Twitter and stuff. Anything you can do to disempower those people, or just expose them for what they are, I think is beneficial, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody. Definition. And what I always wanted to do was make a Tarantino movie, and I've always wanted to make a Coen Brothers movie. So I combined those two, and that's kind of what Red State is. So getting John Goodman made it really feel like a Coen Brothers movie while we were shooting, and throw Stephen Root in as well. So it was kind of neat, man. It was a dream come true, and I was not honestly worthy of it. It was crazy how good these actors are. Like John Goodman will just sit there, open his mouth up, and the dialogue falls out so effortlessly. You don't even feel like he's acting. In fact, sometimes he'll just say some shit, and I'm like, what was that, John? Were you talking to me? He's like, I'm acting. And you're like, oh, I'm sorry. Because it just sounds so natural and conversational. So scoring him was a coup, and you can see how he kind of plays. Like, he's a white knight in that movie, because he's at least a sense of normalcy in the proceedings. Like, you see him, and you're like, oh, finally, somebody we know. And he doesn't get shot in the eye like Kevin Pollak.
I mean, with what you're doing, and kind of, you touched on it a little bit with the idea of the technology we have with internet and everything we have at home now. Mm-hmm. And now with the advent of technology like the DSLRs, and just the fact that filmmaking now is coming down to the people, much the way like people have always had the paints Picasso had. Mm-hmm. And now more people, they don't need
the tech's getting cheaper.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like when you talk about Picasso, lots of art is cheap. Lots of art is all about blank canvas and you putting shit on it.
Sure.
Film is one of those expensive art forms that's like, yeah, it starts blank canvas, you put something on it, but it requires like 50 to 100 people and lots of money to do it.
So yeah, like what do you see as the future of cinema in that regard?
No, in a world where the tech comes down, it means it gets more democratized. It's way cheaper to make a first feature now than it was even when I did it. Because you don't need 16 millimeter cameras anymore. You don't need film at all. You get high definition fucking video, digital video. You got your Reds and you got the Canon camera as well. So I don't know, as the tech gets more affordable, everyone's making more movies, which is great. Problem is, there's no more distribution system like there was like 10, 15 years ago for movies of that ilk. So that's why I keep looking at youth real closely, because I'm like, well, one of these motherfuckers are gonna figure out. That's like, people have been like, what do you do? How do you do? What do you do about the tour? How do I do this? And I'm like, look, here's how you succeed in life. You look at smart people and see what they're doing, and you take it for yourself and adapt it and make it work for you. Like there was Trent Reznor and Radiohead were doing what I'm trying to do in music. I like the idea that they unplugged and they went right to the audience. They're like, why spend all those millions of dollars to reach an audience when we're already in touch with the audience? And that's kind of where I am. I'm like, why bother? So at that point, I looked at what they did and stole it and adapted it for me and tried to make it work for me. Now I'm also looking all around to see what the kids are doing, because there's going to be one very, very smart and frustrated independent filmmaker, boy or girl, who's going to realize that they're going to be like the Napster kid, or fucking Twitter guys, or the Facebook kid. They're going to be like, oh, all we have to do is this, and all of us are going to be like, oh.
It was right there the whole
It
time.
was right there the whole time, but it's going to come from frustration and a desire to fucking communicate, and that's where we are right now. And most of our communication happens on that little box that goes like this. So that's where I'm looking. I too am looking. People ask me, and I'm like, dude, I don't know. I'm watching youth, because that's where all the best ideas come from. So I would say keep watching that way, man, because somebody's going to figure out that distribution thing. I'm desperately trying from my end, but I know someone younger and smarter than me is going to figure out digital distribution in a way that excites people and doesn't make them feel like, yeah, there's that. You know, you don't want it to be like an also-ran. That's what it is now. It reminds me of like TV back in the day. Back in the day when I started making film, everyone was like, TV, yeah, I mean, it's TV, it's free, it's in your house. Now TV is far better than film. There's way better fucking television shows on right now than there are films in the cinema. So that common box that everyone just kind of took for granted shifted and became a major artistic creative force. Storytelling has improved dramatically in the last 10 years in television. So for me, I kind of wonder if like the computer right now is what the TV was about 10, 15, 20 years ago, where people are like, yeah, it's there, but it's not, you know, it's just there. It's not the right thing. It's a thing, but that's not the aim. And I'm just kind of hoping in 10, 20 years, everyone's just like, oh my God, remember when we just used this to look up porn? You know, now what we do is fucking show our movies to each other. I mean, there's change is fucking in the air. It's all different. You know, film exhibition is drastically different. You're going to start seeing so many multiplexes closed down because you have massive fucking barns that require heating or cooling or power that only get filled up at like 7 and 9 o'clock on a weekend. So the rest of the time from like fucking 11 o'clock till 6 o'clock on the weekends and almost 24/7 weekday, they're empty. Those big buildings are empty, man. Exhibitors are fucking losing money. People that own those buildings are losing money. So I think you're gonna start seeing theaters get smaller for that very reason. Like we all went this way, mushroom for a while. Multiplexes got bigger and bigger and bigger, more screens. But I think what you're gonna see is more screens, smaller size. Because why bother having 500 fucking seats, 1,000 seats if only 3 people are sitting in them? So everything's gonna change in the very, very immediate future, and I'm just kind of keeping my ear to the ground, my nose in the air, and my eyes wide open to see what it is. Because once it happens, I'm gonna seize onto it as well. It's a good idea. It's a good idea.
Fair enough.
Be that guy. That'd be awesome.